Jefferson County Court at Law #2 is now in session. Court is in session and calls number 324-911. Let the record reflect that in the case of the state versus Mamie Lee Guillory, that Miss Mamie Lee Guillory is present in court with her attorney, Mr. John West. Let the record also reflect that the state is present with Assistant District Attorneys, Attorney Ray Shearer and Attorney Andrew Hubel. Let the record reflect that the jury is now present in the courtroom. State, are you ready to proceed?
State's ready, Your Honor.
Defense, are you ready to proceed?
Ready, Your Honor.
Mr. Shearer, you may read the information, and Ms. Guillory, would you please stand?
State of Texas versus Mamie Lee Guillory, misdemeanor charge of assault, Class A. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas comes now the undersigned Assistant District Attorney of Jefferson County, Texas, on behalf of the state of Texas, and presents and to the County Court of Law of Jefferson County, Texas, that in Jefferson County, Texas, Mamie Lee Guillory, hereinafter styled the defendant, heretofore on or about August 5th, 2019, did then and there intentionally and recklessly cause bodily injury to Jessica Leanne Ivy, hereinafter styled the complainant, by striking complainant in the head with her hand against the peace and dignity of the state.
Ms. Guillory, how do you plead? Okay, you may sit down. Mr. Shearer, would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor, I would.
Okay, you may proceed.
Well, jurors, here we are. We're going to start hearing testimony a little bit. And just to kind of give you a quick speech class, you know that I'm supposed to tell you what I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you what I told you. And essentially what I'm going to show is that in Jefferson County, shows jurisdiction, and August 5th of 2019, it's been a while, that the defendant here struck a person in the head, and it was at a workplace. They intentionally struck her, and it did cause bodily injury. And in Texas, bodily injury is anything that causes pain up through everything. I mentioned that in voir dire as far as assault can be all the way up through any offensive contact. In this case, all we have to do is establish that it caused pain. And the complainant is Jessica Leanne Ivy. Now, both the defendant and the complainant were working at the Federal Corrections Complex at the same time when this occurred. And we will have witnesses that are coming in that have in the past worked there and or still work there that were present when it happened. I feel like that we're going to be able to show y'all that this did in fact happen. And I think the state's going to be able to prove their case. I would be here if I didn't think we had a case that at least needed to be heard by y'all. It's not worth spending y'all's time on something that's crazy. I don't think this is a waste of time. I think this is a very serious matter for two reasons. Number one, we're talking individuals' lives here, but also we're talking about people who work in a position where they're supposed to deal with violent offenders and or offenders in general. And it's not something that this kind of conduct should be tolerated amongst them. So that's why we're presenting this case to you. And the state intends to show that this occurred in this day. And I want y'all to listen very closely to what's said by whom, and at the end of the, hopefully at the end of the day, be able to draw a conclusion on this. We don't think this is going to take many days. I hope not anyway. I hope to get this testimony in and get things wrapped up pretty quick so that we can have a conclusion to this, because it has been since 2019 that people have been kind of in limbo on this. But I look forward to presenting this case to y'all. I appreciate y'all's attention, and we will continue as Mr. West will probably have some remarks to.
Mr. West, you like to?
Real briefly, Your Honor. This is the case where the state is going to present to you that my client slapped the victim. So this case is. And you hear my client saying, never slapped her, never touched her. This is what we have a lot of times, a she said versus she said kind of case. The only difference in this case is that we have two more witnesses that were there as well. And you're gonna get a he said or she said versus she said, and she said, he said. At the end of this, you're gonna see that the evidence shows you that my client never touched the victim's. There was bad blood between them, they got into an argument, they were fighting verbally, however you wanna say it, but she never touched her. You're gonna see that.
Sure, would you like to call your first witness?
Say, like, call Jessica Ivy.
Okay. Miss Ivy, would you
Yes.
come forward? Miss Ivy, would you please raise your right hand? Miss Ivy, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Miss Ivy, you may take the seat in the witness stand. You could adjust the mic and the seat. Mr. Shearer, you may proceed.
Okay, Miss Ivy, could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Jessica Ivy,
And Miss Ivy, where are you employed?
with the Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Prisons.
Okay, and the facility you work at, where is it?
Currently, I work in Houston, Texas.
And so you commute? to your
Yes.
job? Okay, where do you commute from?
Bridge City, Texas.
Okay, and how long have you worked with the Federal Bureau of Prisons?
In August, it'll be 9 years.
Okay, and previous to your Houston assignment, where else did you work?
For the federal prison, I worked in Beaumont.
Okay, and what unit is that there?
It's the Federal Correctional Complex in Beaumont, Texas.
Okay, and how long did you work there?
From August 2014 to January 2022.
Okay, so up until a little over a year ago, then you can say you worked.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what do you do at the Federal Corrections Facility?
Currently, I'm a special investigative services technician. I'm in charge of doing the investigations with the inmates inside the prison.
Okay, and what type of investigations do y'all wind up in?
Physical assault, sexual assaults. There was a fight. We determined whether they were fighting or if there was an assault. Any allegation that is brought forth to our office, we investigate with the inmate.
Okay, and in order to do your job and prior, okay, well, let me back up. When you were in Beaumont, what did you do at the facility in Beaumont?
I had several jobs in Beaumont. I started out as a correctional officer. After I was a correctional officer, I became the captain secretary. After I was the captain secretary, I became a correctional systems officer. After the correctional systems officer, I went back to being a correctional officer. After I was the correctional officer, I went back to being the captain secretary before I went to Houston.
Okay, and, in being a corrections officer and all this, have you received specialized training?
We had to go to training, for 3 weeks in Georgia.
Okay, and, what did y'all learn there?
Just basic techniques. We had to do a physical agility test. We had to go on the firing range, basically how to manage inmates.
Okay, when you say manage inmates, what do you mean?
Just daily, how to, I guess, just work in a prison, like what to look for, what to do, if something happens, how to react in like emergency situations.
Okay, so pretty intense situations.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and, in your 9 years with the, Federal Bureau of Prisons, have you seen some bad situations occur in the prisons?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and, your coworkers with you, do y'all carry some of that home sometimes?
I would say some people do. Yes, sir.
Okay, and, is it something that you have to, say, deal with?
Yes, sir.
What's it like inside? Is it fun and games or what?
Hostile? No, sir. It's not fun and games.
Okay, and are you used to dealing with a hostile situation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's talk more closely the events on August 2019. What were you doing that day?
I had reported to work. I was a correctional systems officer and I was assigned to the outside mailroom.
Okay, and when you say the outside mailroom, what exactly is that?
So usually in prison is usually like has to secure gate and then there's the prison, but in Beaumont, there's a federal correctional, it's a complex. So there's a camp below, a medium and a high security prison. And then there's like an outside warehouse location where there's a food service warehouse, a unicorn warehouse, and then the mail room was located outside in that warehouse also.
Okay, so this mail room, was it exclusive to one unit or did it cover?
The mailroom encompassed every unit, so we had one mailroom, but then we would have staff members who were assigned to each individual institution who worked inside that mailroom for the specific institution. So like, when you walked into the mailroom, there would be 2 staff members for the USP, the high security prison, and then you would walk around the corner, and then there would be 2 officers working for the low security institution, and then on the far side, there were 2 more officers working for the medium institution for the mailroom.
Okay, so at this time you were working for the low
Yes, sir.
security,
Yes, sir.
and what did you do in the mailroom?
We sorted mail and we searched the mail for any contraband coming inside.
Okay, and was that something that occurred?
Yes, all the time.
Okay, and when you say contraband, what are we talking about?
Suboxone, marijuana, cocaine, heroin, unknown narcotics, saturated paper that would come in, the mail would come in soaked. We would have first class mail packages, newspapers, magazines, and legal mail. And we would have to go through all of it every day.
Okay, and was that the only thing you did at this time for the prison, or was this something that was just part of your job?
So as a correctional systems officer, we switched every quarter. So for every 3 months, we would either be in the mailroom or we would be inside the secure institution. And if you were assigned to the mailroom, all you did was the mail. And if you were inside the prison, then you would do like pack property and release property to the inmates that were coming and going from the prison.
Okay, and this facility you're talking about, you know the physical address of it? And if you don't know, that's okay.
I don't know the exact numbers. I know it's on Knock Road.
Okay, and is that in Jefferson County?
Yes, sir.
And is it in the state of Texas?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so more specifically on August 5th, 2019, Who were you working in the mailroom with?
My partner was Mamie Guillory for the low. But in addition to her in the mailroom, there was a lady named Miss Smith for the USP. I'm not sure who the other one was. It might have been Miss Tiziano, but I can't be for certain for Miss Tiziano. And then for the medium, it was Alfred Beverly and Deshaun Davis.
Okay, and how well did you know these people?
I don't know them very well. I had worked with Miss Guillory for a few months since I had been assigned in that department at the low. But the other ones, aside from working with them in the mailroom, like if they worked at the medium or the pen, we wouldn't work together unless we were all in the mailroom together. Because if I'm at the low, then I work in the low institution. They're assigned to the medium, they work in the medium institution, and we don't really work together.
Okay, and would you say any of them were people you consider friends?
Just coworkers.
Just coworkers? Okay. So, on August 5th of 2019, what happened in the mailroom that day?
I got to work that morning. Ms. Guillory was already at work. She was usually the one that got there first. When everybody else came in, there was an argument that ensued over what time the inmate was supposed to get to work.
Okay, hold on right there. This argument, who was it between?
It initiated between Guillory and Beverly because Beverly was in charge of paying the inmate for the hours that he works.
Okay, and what was the result of that argument?
It was just a he said, she said, you're not gonna tell me what I told an inmate, and they kind of just bickered back and forth, and that ended the conversation. But Guillory and Beverly had went to the post office together. They had rode together in our box truck to go pick up all the mail for the institution.
Okay, and where did they have to go for that?
The post office off of, I think it's Walden Road in Beaumont. I'm not familiar with Beaumont.
And so when they got back, what happened then?
When they got back, the mail is sorted already in the post office by the PO box, so we know who gets what mail. So we go and we usually sort the mail out. When I say we, each individual, so the medium will sort theirs, the pen will sort theirs, and the low will sort ours. I had gone out to my vehicle and I had got some headphones to put on so I could listen to some music, because I could tell what kind of day it was gonna be. It was a Monday. We had a lot of work to do. So Guillory goes to sort the mail and she starts throwing the mail at me.
Okay, now, was there anything said between you and her prior to this?
No, sir.
Okay, and when you say she was throwing the mail at you, what do you mean?
I'd been working with her for about 8 months, so this was not typical of her to act in the way she was acting. But like I said earlier, we had first class mail packages, newspapers and magazines. We would have to sort them. So usually newspapers and magazines, we push them to the side, but inside the first class and the packages, even a package, like if it was like a manila envelope size mail, would be together. But first class, we just needed like plain white envelopes. So like the manila envelope folders, she just started throwing them at me, and that never happened before.
Okay, and when she was throwing them at you, was she hitting you?
They were just landing on the table in front of me.
Okay, were there something that you needed to deal with these? Was it like she was passing them to you, or?
No, she was throwing them. She usually would have separated the first class from the bigger envelopes, and we would have then sorted through the mail and continued with our process after
Okay,
that.
and what happened next?
I asked her why was she throwing the mail at me, and she just became belligerent. She started slapping her hands on her legs and throwing her hands up in the air, and she said, I apologize, and may I say a cuss word?
Well,
No, okay.
if you're given a direct quote.
I mean, this is what she
You
said.
can say what she said.
She said, I'm not throwing anything, I'm tossing it, you're just over here trying to start shit out of it.
Okay, was this characteristic conversation amongst y'all?
No,
Okay, and So what happened after that?
So she became loud and was cussing, and she started pointing her finger in my face and telling me, "You're not gonna intimidate me by hollering at me." And about this time, Davis stepped in between the two of us. So Giller was over here, I'm here, Davis stepped in between the two of us.
Okay, and by Davis, you're talking about Deshaun.
Deshaun Davis, yes, sir.
Okay, and, so how far apart were y'all from each other?
I mean, probably she was maybe on the other side of this podium and Davis was standing right here.
Okay, and, was there any type of barrier between y'all, like a wall or?
Just
workstation?
Davis, just Davis.
Okay, and, were you upset at this point?
I was calm. And
Okay, did you react back to her aggressions?
when she pointed her finger at me and was hollering at me and telling me the things that she was telling me, I pointed my finger back in her direction and I said that hollering and pointing fingers wasn't gonna resolve anything.
Okay, let me back up for a second here too. In y'all's training, have y'all been trained to deal with conflict?
Yes, sir.
And what were y'all trained to do if
Deal.
people had, if there were, say there were inmates that were in conflict?
De-escalation.
Okay.
We're trying to de-escalate the situation.
Okay, what would be one of the steps in the de-escalation?
It just depends on what is going on at that time. You know, if it's an inmate, you tell them, hey, stop what you give them an order, you give them a chance to stop what they're doing. And if they continue to do so, then you react to what is going on.
Okay, do y'all ever, have to separate inmates?
Yes.
Okay, and, would this kind of have, almost have the same flavor as stuff y'all were trying to do?
Not necessarily with the inmates, we're authorized to use gas. So if
Okay.
the inmates are fighting and won't get off of each other, I mean, we're gonna spray them.
Okay,
Before we
you're not gonna
physically
be spraying
separate 'em.
coworkers though, so,
Sorry,
y'all not gonna be spraying your coworkers.
no, sir,
Okay.
no, sir.
So at this point, Deshaun Davis was between y'all,
Yes, sir.
okay, and, what was being said at that point?
I couldn't tell you exactly what happened, or the words verbatim, what was being said, just hostility. And I was trying to just resolve the situation. And when I told her pointing fingers and hollering is not gonna resolve anything, she reached around Davis and slapped me on the right side of my face.
Okay, so just now, as you demonstrated that, you used your left hand.
Yes, sir.
So did she use her left hand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and she hit you on the right side of your face?
Yes, sir.
Just to make that clear. Was there, any indication she was gonna do that? Did she threaten to do that or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay, and when we're talking about Guillory in this situation, we're talking about Mamie Lee Guillory.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
Could you please point her out and describe what she's wearing?
Right there, she's wearing a white shirt and plaid pants.
Okay, and like the record to reflect that she's identified as defendant.
The record will so reflect.
What did you experience when that happened?
I mean, it hurt. I wasn't expecting it. But the only thing that I could think to do in the time was to call my supervisor and make them aware of what happened.
Okay, and, did you call your supervisor?
I attempted to, and Deshaun Davis hung up the receiver on the phone and said, we don't do that here, Abby.
Okay, and meaning what?
I can only assume that it means we don't tell, we're not telling, more or less, if you will, like an inmate snitches get stitches.
Okay, have you ever seen two employees that you work with have a conflict like this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what usually resulted in that?
One is removed from the area and eventually, I guess it goes through an investigation and disciplinary comes after that.
Okay, but in this case, have you ever had something like this happen to you before?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay, and when you said she struck you, you said she used her hand?
Yes, sir.
Was there anything in her hand?
No, sir.
Okay, so she didn't have a piece of mail or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay, what part of her hand hit you?
it was like an open palm. She just struck me to the side of my face. So she ended up hitting my cheek, and I was wearing headphones. So she hit the headphones and broke the headphones.
Okay, and what kind of headphones were they?
Beats,
Okay,
wireless headphones.
got my approach.
Yes, you may.
Okay, I'm gonna show you a picture here. Could you please describe this?
That is redness to my right cheek.
Okay, and this picture, when was it taken?
Monday, the same day of the incident. Maybe about an hour and a half after the incident had occurred.
Okay, and who took the picture?
I believe it was the warden secretary, but I'm not sure who was there that day.
Was this a fair and accurate portrayal of what your cheek looked like that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No objections?
The state would like to submit this as state's exhibit number 1.
Okay, State's Exhibit 1 will be admitted.
I'll show you another picture here. Do you recognize this?
Yes, sir.
In fact, I'll show 3 pictures. Could you please say what these are?
Those would be the Beats wireless headphones that I was wearing that day.
Okay, and who took these pictures?
I did.
You took them? Okay,
Yes, sir.
and where did you take them?
I'm not sure where they were taken. I don't know if it was in the warden's office or the mailroom. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I was just noticing, it looks like they're sitting on a wood grain.
Yes, sir.
tabletop. Would that give you an indication?
That's why I think it was taken in the warden's office, but I can't say for certain.
Okay, but you
where they
took
were
these
taken.
pictures?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and is this a fair and accurate representation of what they look like that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No objection.
Okay, what are the numbers?
We'll call it States Exhibit 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
And we'd like to offer them.
Okay, State's Exhibits 2, 3, and 4 will be admitted.
And with the court's permission, I'd like to publish these to the
You
jury.
may pass to the jury.
Pass them on. Your Honor, I'll give a minute for them to.
Okay. Order. I'm going to get you to pass them down.
We may continue on.
You may proceed.
Okay, Miss Ivy. After this occurred,
Yes, sir.
What happened then?
She hung the receiver up and all I wanted to do was get my things and leave, and I was stopped from leaving out of the mailroom. Every time I would step, Ms. Davis would step in front of me. I tried to get my things out of the refrigerator. Ms. Davis was sitting in front of the refrigerator. She wanted to talk to me. Let's talk this out. Don't do this, Miss Ivy. Don't do this. I just wanted to get my stuff and leave.
Okay, and, at what point did you wind up in the warden's office?
After I was finally able to get out of the mailroom and Ms. Davis followed me to my vehicle, I then left from the outside mailroom and I went to the camp to turn in my equipment. And then I ended up at the warden's office. After all that had occurred, so it was, that probably happened at 9 o'clock. And I probably wasn't in the warden's area until maybe 10:30 in the morning.
Okay. And when you said you turned in your equipment, what kind of equipment did y'all have?
I had a radio and a set of keys.
Okay, and, who do you turn those into?
It's called a message center. It's like a control center. It's just a room where they keep accountability for all of our equipment. We turn in a chip. Like if we're getting 3 pieces of equipment, then we turn in 3 chips. And then they put our chip in that piece of equipment and they will know who has what equipment.
Okay, so they're very particular about the equipment and who gets what.
Yes, sir.
Okay. At what point did you speak with the sheriff's department about this?
It was probably an hour after that. Once I was in the warden's office, I then went to go get a medical assessment at the Low institution in the medical department. And then I submitted my memo and I had to go talk to the warden. And then I spoke with Jefferson County after that.
Okay, and where did you speak with them?
Jefferson County,
Yes, ma'am.
the entrance road of our prison. I think that's North Road, but it wasn't on like federal property. We had to go outside of the prison.
Okay, so you said you had to go outside the prison?
Yes, sir.
Okay, was there a reason for that?
That's all I was told. Jefferson County told me they couldn't take my statement on federal property, that they had to come off of federal property. So we had to pass the entrance gate and get off of federal property.
Okay, and so you submitted a report to the sheriff's department?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Since this occurred allegedly occurred in August of 2019, you continued to work there for how long?
I worked in Beaumont up until 2022, in that department. Probably only worked in that department 6 more months, but they wouldn't let me leave that department. They wouldn't voluntarily demote me. I asked for demotion. They wouldn't put me back in
Okay,
custody.
did you have to work around Miss Guillory anymore?
No, I didn't. They sent me to the high security institution.
Okay, so a completely different unit.
Yes,
Okay. And then since then, now you're in Houston?
yes, sir.
Was that something you wanted to get away from Beaumont?
Yes,
Okay, and so you put in to go to Houston?
yes, sir.
Okay. No further comment.
Okay, Mr. West?
You questions, Your Honor? That first picture that we saw a moment ago, about how long after the incident did that picture get taken?
Probably an hour after the incident.
As far as you know, was anyone disciplined by the department or the prison?
No, sir, not yet.
We mean, not yet.
The investigation is still ongoing.
All right, now speaking of investigation, when the sheriff's department came out there and talked to you, did they talk to any of the other witnesses?
I wouldn't know.
Okay, so as far as you know, they only talked to you.
Yes, sir.
That's what it's.
Mr. Shear?
No problem.
Mr. West, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Ivy, you are released. You may step down and you have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like for her to be subject to recall. We need her for rebuttal.
Okay, so Ms. Ivy, you
Yes, sir.
stay around in the witness room.
And in fact, the state would also like to invoke the rule.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Ivy, at this time, the rule has been invoked. And basically what that means is that you are ordered, and once you leave this courtroom, you're instructed not to speak to any other witnesses. You're not to discuss this case or your testimony with anyone else except the attorneys that are involved in this case. Now, any witness violating this instruction is subject to being held in contempt of court.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
So at this time, you may exit the courtroom. And Mr. Shearer, you can call your next witness,
The state would like to call Deshaun Davis.
Deshaun Davis. Ms. Davis, would you please raise your right hand? Ms. Davis, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. Ms. Davis, once the bailiff finished putting the mic, changing the mic cover, you can have a seat in the witness stand, and you can adjust the mic in the chair. Mr. Shearer, you may proceed.
Ms. Davis, could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, my name is Deshaun Davis. I'm 51 years old. I am retired from Federal Bureau of Prison. 25 years.
And if you could just move that mic up a little bit closer.
Yeah,
You're
yes.
kind of soft spoken and we want to make sure everybody hears you. So you retired after 25 years with Federal Bureau of Prisons.
Yes,
Okay, well, good job. My next question was going to be, how long have you been with the Federal Bureau of Prisons? You've already answered that, so I'll move on. What were your job assignments with the Federal Bureau of Prisons? What type of work did you do?
I worked in what they call receiving and discharging, which also entailed the job of mailroom officer.
Okay,
When we received them, we would process them, and they would go home and walk them to other institutions, we would do that. And the mailroom, we switched out every 90 days. You'd be in the prison 90 days out of the prison.
okay. How many people would work in the mailroom at one time then?
6.
6? Okay. Okay. Because I'm trying to figure out how many people. Because it was my understanding it was 3 facilities there?
There's actually 4,
Okay,
but the 4th one, the camp, has its own mailroom and its own receiving and discharging.
okay,
And then the low institution, the medium, and the USP, we have a small section of a warehouse.
okay. And so which facility were you actually assigned to?
Medium,
Okay, and we are talking about in August of 2019.
yes, sir.
Okay, and so you would do 90 days in the mailroom and 90 days in the unit. And how many people work out there? Just roughly how many?
At the prison,
At the medium facility.
at the medium one.
Okay. Okay.
But in our department, total for the medium. Probably 7.
Okay.
Around.
Okay, because that's what I was trying to get my head around, 90 days, 90 days out. That does.
Yeah, so you would switch out with them.
Okay, so not everybody works there, works in mailroom.
Right.
Okay, I understand. So, what were some of the things y'all would find in the mail?
So lots of drugs, contraband, I've had both of my corneas burned from methamphetamine, heroin, exposure. A lot of times we have to call the postmaster out to come and identify things for them.
Okay. Do you feel safer working in the mailroom or working in the unit?
It's a toss up. I knew what I was doing in the mailroom, very, vigilant. I find drugs, and some people like crazy. So it's either here or there.
Okay.
You know.
And focusing more on the events of August 5th of 2019, you were working in the mailroom.
Yes.
Okay, and what happened that day?
So, I had been out for over a week. I had had a procedure, so it was my first day back. It was early morning. Usually when two of the people leave, the first two people that come at the early shift, they gather the mail, they go to Walden Road, they pick up the mail and come back. So, and usually it was me and Miss Ivy in the mailroom by ourselves. This particular morning, she was on the phone and it sounded like she was crying. So I didn't bother her because we usually talk every morning about random things. And I didn't bother her. And so I'm sitting there doing my work when they come back with the mail and everything. And I keep doing what I'm doing because I have to catch up on email. And I can hear like a little bickering, nothing out of the usual, just hear, the two girls like bickering.
Okay. Let me hold on for just a second here. I want to back up. You said they came back with the mail. Who went and got the mail that day?
I believe if I'm not mistaken, it was Mamie, Miss Guillory and Albert Bill,
Okay,
if I'm not mistaken.
okay. It was not you.
It wasn't me and, no,
Have you gone and got the mail before?
I did, but at that time I was on light duty because I had just came back from having a procedure.
Okay. And so you heard some bickering?
Just a little, what are you doing? Just some, I didn't tell you what they were saying really, just some bickering. And the way our sections are set up, there's like one up front, one in the middle, one to the back. I worked at the one at the back. When you're at your desk, you can't see what's going on like behind you, but literally have to scoot your chair back and kind of see what's going on. So I scoot my chair back, I look, and there's just a little argument going on. That's not unusual. So I scoot my chair back up front, continue to work.
How far away were you from this? And I mean, like.
Maybe
I don't
from
want
here
to-
to where the judge.
Okay, so you're pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happened as this continued?
Well, it got louder. I heard profanity going on. So at that time, I got up over there and I'm fussing because I'm the oldest one there. I'm fussing, like what's going on? It's too early for all this, just saying stuff. I placed myself in between them. They still kind of arguing back and forth. So I told Miss Guillory, I told her, because she was on the back side of me. And Miss Ivy was on the front side of me. And I told Miss Guillory, I said, back up. Back all the way up. And I told Miss Ivy to back up. Now, I'm telling them to back up really because of me, because I was in a fragile state. And I didn't want nobody to make a move and injure me. So I asked my coworker there that, hey, come over here and make sure, I don't want nobody to move. So Miss Mamie stayed back there, Miss Jessica stayed on the, that's me, Miss Guillory stayed behind me, Miss Ivy stayed in front of me. Mr. Beverly came over and he proceeded to ask them well that he asked them and everything. And once he got there, I think it kind of escalated a little more, it was like, she doing this, she doing that. And then, I was like, okay, y'all, that's it. Like, it is too early. Like, y'all friends, like, cut it out. So, Miss Guillory stayed at the back. Miss Ivy I could tell she was really upset. So I told her, I said, come on, we're gonna go outside. And she was like, I don't want to be here. I hate this place. She was saying some things. So I was like, okay. So I was the senior person there. So pretty much the responsibility lays on me to make sure nothing happens.
Okay, and what did Mr. Beverly do?
He that I can remember, he got up. He might have used some profanity, like, what are y'all doing? You know, stop all that noise, you know, what's going on? And he was like, okay, y'all still arguing? I'm going back and sit down. He went and sat back down.
Okay,
So at this time, I told Ms. Ivy, I said, come on, we're gonna go outside. And she wanted some stuff off of her desk, and I told her, so how our department is made, the refrigerator is in the front part of the section. So I told her, I said, stand right there and don't move, and get your stuff. Yeah, I walked to her desk, which was refrigerator is here, and her desk probably like at the end of this section. I got her stuff off of there. We went to the refrigerator. She was doing a diet lunch with me, a liquid lunch with me, her and Miss Gillum. And so, I got her liquid stuff out. She said she had another bag, got that out. We proceeded to the front door. As a person, you have to check out keys. They give you these things with your names on. In the morning, you turn in that chip, you get your keys. So I said, give me your keys. I'll give you your chip later. Pop the door open, me and her walk down this ramp that we have to walk down. We walked down the ramp, we talked. She popped her trunk open, we still talking. You know, I was telling her, I was like, look, I don't know what y'all got going on with y'all friends. Y'all like sisters, like what is going on? And she was just like upset, but she had to calm down. It was not, she wasn't cursing or saying she wanted to leave no more. She was just, you know, she was calm. So, she got in the car. I told her if she wanted to text me when she get home, and I was gonna go call the supervisor to let her know that she was gonna go home.
okay, and so at that point, she left?
At that point, she left the mailroom.
Okay.
There
But
was,
you went with her out to her car?
yes, I walked her to her car. I
Okay,
had her
and
lunch.
did she get in her car and leave?
She got in her car.
Okay, and that was it for the day then?
That was the last time I seen her that day.
Okay.
Probably later that day, they had sent somebody out to kind of talk to Miss Manning, Miss Guillory, to see what had happened. And I didn't see Ivy anymore. So probably a few days later after that, the job put up a panel interview to ask people different questions. And I believe that it was so many different scenarios from Miss Ivy that they no longer
Okay.
needed me to
Yeah,
testify.
we're gonna ask that and be struck because that's gonna be hearsay. But she's referring to what Miss Ivy is rumored to have said.
Okay, you have a response?
No response, Your Honor.
Okay, that will be sustained. And, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please disregard the statement that was made in response to the question, from Mr. Shearer. Okay, you may proceed.
Okay, when you were between them, you testified that, Miss Guillory was to your back,
Yes, sir.
okay, and Miss Ivy was to your front,
Mhm.
okay? And how big an area were y'all when this occurred? I mean, how much room was there in there? Was it an open space? Was it confined in there?
It wasn't, I would say, from maybe the beginning of this table till about right behind the judge, and maybe about that length and about this much width. It's
Okay.
not a big space.
And did you see Miss Guillory struck Miss Ivy?
No, sir.
Okay. Could she have struck Miss Ivy and you not seen it?
I mean, anything is possible, but I did not witness anybody physically touch anybody.
Okay. Was there a point where it's like the tone of the situation changed with Miss Ivy? Where she became more contrite or scared or something like that?
No,
Okay. Was she at an elevated, heightened sense, like screaming and hollering?
they both were until I told them to shut.
Okay, and at that time, both of them did?
Both of them did, and like I said, then once Mr. Beverly came in, Miss Ivy started saying more things, and Miss Guillory, well, she was to the back of me, and she was she was calmer than Miss Ivy was. But, you know, Miss Ivy was saying things like, I just hate this place. You know, I want to get out of here. I hate this place.
Okay, how long did you continue to work at the Federal Bureau of Prisons after this?
So I retired January of 21.
Okay, and what did you do during that time? Between this incident and your retirement, did your job change?
No.
Okay, you continued the same. Okay, and the people you worked with, which unit were you working out of?
The medium.
Okay, so you worked with the medium. Did you know which unit Miss Gilroy worked out of?
At that time, she might have been assigned to the penitentiary. I can't remember if she was assigned to the pen or the low.
And do you know which unit that Miss Ivy worked out of?
Miss Ivy was assigned to the low because our chairs were binder apart.
Okay, and did you ever have occasion to work around outside the mailroom, Miss Ivy or Miss Gilroy?
Yes,
Okay, and let me back it up. Did you work around Miss Ivy? Did you outside the mailroom?
yes.
Okay, where was that?
Inside receiving and discharge,
Okay,
probably for some overtime, work overtime. Never was her direct partner, but we would get mandatory overtime. I think I worked with her a few times.
okay, what about Miss Gilroy? Did you work around her?
Yes,
Okay, and where and how was that?
also inside the receiving and discharge.
Okay, and I know you work with these people. Were there anybody there that you would consider friends? Anybody you met and did things with outside of work?
Me particularly?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes, I have friends.
Okay, what about Miss Guillory? Would you consider her a friend?
I consider her a friend, yes.
Okay, and how good a friend are you with Miss Guillory?
We didn't, I think we ever did any outside activities before. I think, one time I might have invited her son to my mom's birthday party. I was 12 years old. And they were like 8 or 9 back then.
Okay, since you've retired from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, have you continued to keep in touch with some of the people you work with?
I do. Mhm.
And when I say keep in touch, of course, this is the information age. Are we talking like on Facebook or what?
Facebook, 90% of them. And then I have 2. At dinner night.
Okay, is either Miss Ivy or Miss Guillory, either one of them, do you travel with, have dinner night with?
No.
Okay. Prior to coming into court today, did you speak with anybody? And outside the courtroom, anyone?
I talked to Miss Gilbert while we sat and waited. Mr. Bentley's outside.
Okay, okay, no further question.
Okay. Mr. West?
Just for the record to make sure clear, I'm sure you had any questions. You called me, didn't you? Okay, I just want to make sure nobody thinks that you and I sit in a room over here and talk about this case, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let me back up a couple questions. I know you've been asked this, but I need to really ask you this. Did Miss Guillory ever slap Miss Ivy?
No.
Did you ever hit her or strike her in any way?
No, sir.
Did she reach around you and slap or hit her?
No, sir.
Okay, because you were between the two of them.
I was between.
Because you said you wanted to back away because you were just coming off a surgery or whatever, and you didn't want to get hurt, right?
Yes, I was around 20 pounds lighter.
Okay, all right. So there wasn't any physical contact from anyone while you were there, is that correct?
I didn't witness any.
Okay, all right. Now, did the sheriff's department ever talk to you about what happened here?
No,
Right? Now, inside the prison officials there, they spoke to you and interviewed you, correct?
no. So they did set up an interview panel, but.
Well, did they talk to you, is what I'm saying?
No,
Okay.
they said they no longer needed to talk to.
Okay, so you never got a statement or anything of it to anyone?
I did have to do a written statement. I did.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yes,
So you gave a written statement to them.
I gave a written statement to them and then,
And let me ask that question. I think I'm get to what you want to say, and I'll do it the proper way.
yes, sir.
Was anyone disciplined for this incident that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of,
Is this matter closed as far as you're aware?
that, as far as I'm aware.
Is, what I'm getting at, is their investigation still going after 4 years, or do you know?
I do not.
You also said a moment ago, I want to clarify, you said Miss Guillory was the more calm of the two?
Yes,
Correct. So she was much more, I'll say relaxed, because neither of them were relaxed, but less than Miss Ivy was.
yes.
Okay. Let me also ask you something else that I know about, but did you get charged with anything?
Approximately 30 days later, I got a letter in the mail saying that I was being charged with assault by Ms. Ivy.
So not only Miss Guillory charged with assault, and that's why we're here today.
I'm objecting relevance to here.
I think it goes to credibility, Your Honor.
Objection overruled.
You were also charged with assault, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, yours wasn't in this quarter or class A, yours was class C, correct?
That I know she went to a different precinct. I think it was precinct 1 towards Nederland. It's Bowman, but I,
Okay, it's the JP out near the airport.
yes,
correct? And filed class C misdemeanor assault charges on you.
yes.
What happened to that case?
We went in, talked to the assistant district attorney, maybe for 5 minutes, and he was like, what? And so he called, and then he called us out in, and then he called us back in. He was like, case is dismissed.
That's what.
Mr. Shearer,
Okay, Ms. Davis, I want to make sure. I'm hearing two different things here. Because I asked you if you saw her get hit. And you said you did not see her get hit.
I did not.
Okay, but then you told him that she didn't hit her. Okay, but then when I asked you about seeing her get hit, I said, could it have been where you didn't see it?
So I took that as a hypothetical.
I believe your answer was anything is possible.
I mean, and there was a time where I just let them continue to argue. I don't know. I can't tell you what happened right there because I went back to doing my work. I know what happened when I got in the middle of them and no one physically touched anyone. And in my job, we take an oath, not only to protect the inmate property, but sometimes you have to deal with staff. So it was my duty. So had anybody hit anybody, my first duty would have been to get them to be medically assessed. My second job would have been to call for the supervisors to come out. And had I done none of that, believe me, I would have had to tell you to report.
Okay, but
Violation.
so if there was any striking that occurred, it had a whole lot more work to do, and that would have fallen on you to do it?
Yes, sir, if I'm the witness, it would have fell on anybody, but as the person that's standing there talking to them, yes, it would be considered failure to report.
Okay, and who was the supervisor that was out there?
So we didn't have assigned supervisors inside the middle. Each institution, supervisor was on the inside.
But once again, your statement a while ago was anything is possible. Is that correct?
I did say that. And what I mean is, I cannot tell you what I did not see.
Okay,
If I was working in my computer, to me, they were just having a little spinner stack, which is very common when 6 people are working in a small working area. If somebody's having a bad day, anything can happen.
okay. No problem.
Mr. West,
Yes, Your Honor. So when you said anything's possible, they could have struck each other while they were back before you got there, is what you're saying, correct?
Yeah,
But while you were between the two of them, did anyone strike anyone?
no,
That's what it was.
Shearer,
Okay, then I'm just a little confused here too, because you said that when all this went down after it happened, you walked with Ivy out to her car.
I did.
these young ladies, I have kids older than me. So these young ladies were like my little sisters. We had, I knew how they were was going through personal problems. I was there for her, you know, I was there for Miss Gillian. Her and Miss Gillian were actually, they considered them to be very good friends.
Okay.
And I walked up to her car. Miss Gillian was in her work area. Miss Ivy said she wanted to get out of there. So I walked her outside and we were good and calm. She popped open her trunk and I put her stuff inside of her car. I told her to text me or call me if she wanted to when she got home, and I told her I would call the supervisor and advise her what happened. And that was pretty much it. There was another coworker that was even at the job that never even moved because it wasn't that big of a thing.
So at the time this occurred, was it within your scope of duty to allow other employees to leave before the scheduled end of the shift?
As being the senior person that was there, I would say I could kind of make that call, but I could, you know, I would have to call the supervisor
Okay, but,
so that would know.
okay, and this would be called after the person had left or?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Mr. West?
Nothing further on.
Okay. Ms. Davis, the witness rule has been invoked. And basically what that means is that once you leave this courtroom, you're instructed not to talk to anyone about your testimony. You cannot talk to anyone except the attorneys. Okay, now if you violate this rule, you can be held in contempt of court. And you're also ordered not to read any reports, news articles, or anything pertaining to this case. Okay, now you may be excused and you have a blessed day. Mr. Shearer?
State like call.
Let me do this here. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, testimony has been going on for about an hour. We're gonna allow you to have a break. Please follow the bailiff into the hallway. If you need any water or coffee, just let him know, and we'll be able to provide you with that. Everyone, please stand as the jury exit the courtroom. Will it be recessed? Everyone may be seated. Court is back in session to call number M 324-911. Case is filed in the state of Texas versus Mamie Lee Guillory. Let the record reflect that Mamie Lee Guillory is present in court with her attorney, Attorney John West. Let the record also reflect that the state is present with Assistant District Attorneys Andrew Hubel and Attorney Ray Shearer. Let the record also reflect that the jury is now present in the court. Mr. Shearer, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, sir, we are.
And state, are you, defense, are you ready to proceed?
They are.
Shearer, you may call your next witness,
State would like to call Alfred Beverly.
Alfred Beverly. Mr. Beverly, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Beverly, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Beverly, you may take a seat in the witness stand, and you could adjust the microphone and the chair. Mr. Shearer, you may proceed.
How you doing, Mr. Beverly? Could you, please introduce yourself to the jury?
Alfred Beverly, Beaumont, Texas.
Okay. Okay, and, Mr. Beverly, could you please tell the jury how you're employed?
Work at the federal government, going on 27 years.
Okay,
Federal congressional,
okay, and, what unit do you work at up there now?
correctly, at the low.
At the low, okay. And how long have you been at the low?
Beginning of this year.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, and, prior to that, and prior to, have you worked your full 27 years at the Beaumont facility?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What units out there have you worked?
All of them.
All of them. You know, a lot of people out there didn't work the units, okay, because by moving around like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so you were working August 5th of 2019.
Correct.
Okay, do you recall what you were doing that day?
Working in the room.
Okay, and what unit were you working at, that day?
Meeting.
Okay.
I mean, the mailroom is, you work in quarters.
Okay,
You sign here 3 months, you sign over there 3 months.
okay, and so,
But it falls under a particular institution.
okay, and you were medium at
Yes,
that.
correct.
Okay, so, you know, Ms. Guillory here,
Mhm.
okay, and, you know, Miss Ivy, Jessica Ivy, okay, and you know, Miss Deshawn Davis.
Yes.
Okay, and, were you working within the unit that they worked, any of those worked at that time you were working the mailroom?
Yeah, we always assign to them.
Okay, but the unit you were assigned to, when you left the mailroom, was it with any of those?
Well,
I mean, I know that every different facilities send people to the mailroom.
right.
Okay, and when you were not at the mailroom and you went back to your facility, were you working with any of those that I mentioned?
I was working with Ms. Davis.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and when you're in the mailroom, how big, describe the room to me. Is it a big room, little room?
There's a nice size room, but it's sectioned off,
Mhm.
one way in, one way out. When you first come in, you have a big area, and then you turn to the right. You have a section area for the speed, and you have a section for the low, and then to the way to the back, you have a section for the beat.
Okay, and so the daily routine in the mailroom, what time do you show up?
Different shift, you have 6 to 2:30, then you have 7:30 to 4.
Okay, so it's a continuous operation almost, at least 16 hours,
No, 8 hours.
8 hours,
Yeah.
okay. With this particular day, y'all received the mail?
Mhm.
Do you recall who went and got the mail?
I don't know.
Okay, and y'all were sorting mail?
Yes, beginning of the day, you get the mail in, you receive the mail, and you just, once you saw it, you start working, processing.
Okay, And, this particular day, was there anything unusual that happened?
Pretty normal day, and then, Hillary and, Ms. Ivers got into I guess you could say an argument, like a heated conversation.
Okay, were they loud?
Yeah,
Were they cussing?
I couldn't remember.
Okay, were the words exchanged?
Yeah, some words was changed, exactly what I know.
Did you have cause to intervene?
Yeah, my coworker called me over, hey, Bill, y'all stop. I went, y'all stop.
What happened?
They just continued arguing,
Okay, and what'd you do?
told them about it again.
Okay, did they stop?
No,
Okay, what happened?
back to work.
Okay, and so they just kept on.
They kept on.
Okay, where was, Miss Davis when this was going on?
I mean, we were all in the narrow, they went in the low area.
Huh.
You just walk a few steps, you from the medium area to the low area.
Okay,
There's no doors, you just. walk.
okay, but as far as with, between, Miss Ivy and Miss Guillory, what was her proximity to them,
Who?
Miss Davis?
Right there next to where they were.
Okay, did she get in between them?
No, she was just, we just all trying to, y'all calm down, stop.
Okay, okay, did you see any violence?
No, no.
Okay. Going back a little bit into your work there, 27 years, that's a pretty good time.
Mhm.
You've seen a lot.
Mhm. Right.
And I assume the mailroom is a kind of a break from everything.
You can say that.
When you're in the unit itself, what are your duties?
With you.
Which that particular day, when you went back out of the mailroom?
No, you assigned to her, you stay there for 8 hours.
But when your rotation in the mailroom's up with, and you go.
Oh, you go back inside the institution.
Yeah, and what's your duties there?
You process inmates, you process property, you work files, you have various activities.
Okay, and as far as your supervision while you're doing this, what's your like chain of command, you can say, what's,
Each institution has a supervisor.
okay. One supervisor?
Per institution, yes.
Okay, and what, does that person have a title?
Supervisory correctional system specialist.
Okay, okay, and how many supervisors would be over each unit?
One.
Okay, at any given time, there's gonna be one
Mhm.
there, okay? So where does a warden fit in,
As in,
as in this chain of command?
he's the top person.
Okay, so the supervisor would answer to the warden?
It's a chain of command.
Okay,
You have the AW, then you have the
Okay,
executive
you-
assistant. so
okay, you said AWs,
Yeah.
that's what,
Associate warden.
okay, and then who's below that?
You have executive assistant. That's pretty much, then you have captains. That's pretty much it for the exec staff.
Okay, okay, this particular day in the mailroom, who was the supervisor?
At the mailroom, there
Yes.
is one at the mailroom.
Okay, okay, so y'all were all pretty much on your own then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay, so after this incident occurred, what happened after things cooled down?
I think Ivy left, and that's all I recall.
Okay, did you see her leave?
No,
Okay,
I went back to. my
okay,
desk.
did you see her leave the mailroom?
No, I didn't see her leave the room.
Okay. When you are in the unit, not the mailroom, but in the unit, how dependent are you for your safety on the coworkers with you?
I'll be very dependent.
Okay, is there anything you like? If something happens and one of your coworkers is in a bind, if you fail to take action, is there anything would come of that?
Yeah, so. Failure to report, failure to help your coworker.
Okay. How frequently do you have to go to somebody's aid?
It's not
I'm
too
not talking
often.
about this incident, I'm talking about,
It's not too often.
okay.
It can just pop off any minute.
So it's volatile.
Yeah.
Okay. How much do you trust the people you work with?
So somebody in my family.
Okay. No further.
Okay. Mr. West?
Mr. Beverly, on that day, did you ever see Miss Guillory slap Miss Ivy? Okay, did you ever see Miss Guillory strike or hit Miss Ivy in any way?
No, sir.
Was there any physical contact between anyone that you saw?
No,
Did the sheriff's office ever talk to you about what happened there?
no, sir.
Okay, now internally, they got statements from you, correct?
Right.
All right, and then also, do you know if anyone was ever disciplined for this?
No, sir.
The matter was closed down and y'all just kept went back to work, right?
That's correct.
Okay, until having come here today, it's kind of over with, right? Okay, until you got a subpoena to be here for court,
That's correct.
right? And that's why you're here is because you were subpoenaed to come to court, right?
Correct.
Okay. Are you friends with Miss Ivy or Miss Guillory?
We coworkers.
Of course, but you don't hang out.
No,
outside work. That's what I'm getting at. You aren't friends or best friends or anything like that. Okay. You work with both of them.
Mhm.
Right. And you still work with Miss Guillory, right?
That's correct.
Because y'all still both work at the Beaumont. Those are good. Miss Ivy's now in Houston, I think.
I have no idea what you.
Okay, well, if she said she was in Houston, you would believe that, correct? The final thing I want to ask you about, were you ever charged with anything regarding this?
No, sir.
Okay, nobody ever charged you with any kind of criminal charges with
No,
this?
sir.
That's what it is.
Mr. Sheriff?
No further.
Mr. Beverly, the rule has been invoked, and what that basically means is that once you leave this courtroom, you are instructed that you cannot talk to anyone, and you're not ordered to come back in the courtroom unless you get the order from my bailiff or myself. Now, you cannot read any news reports or any reports concerning this case, and with the exception of talking to the lawyers, you cannot talk to anyone about your testimony here today. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Now, if you violate this rule, you can be held in contempt of court. But at this time, you're excused. You can step down and you have a blessed day.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Shearer, you can call your next witness.
State restaurant.
Okay. State is rested.
Defense will call Mamie Guillory.
Okay. Ms. Guillory? Would you please raise your right hand? Right here. Ms. Guillory, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Ms. Guillory, you may put your hand down. Once he finished putting the mic cover or changing the mic cover, you can have a seat in them with the staff. And you can adjust the chair and the microphone.
Okay.
Mr. West?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Guillory, they've all heard your name already, but please introduce yourself to the jury.
I'm Amy Guillory.
All right, Ms. Guillory, we've heard a lot about you already because we've had other witnesses here. You currently work at the federal prison complex here in Beaumont, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. How long have you been working there?
16 years in July.
And you heard all the other people testify what they do. What do you do?
I am actually a human resource specialist at this time.
What does that mean?
I actually process all personnel actions for all new employees and the current employees.
Right. So you're currently more in the employment division of, you're not actually out in the prison and.
Yes, I'm on the outside of the.
Okay, the outside of the, okay. All right, let's go back to 2019 incident we talked about. What was your position at that time?
I was a correctional systems officer
Kind of like Miss Ivy was, your
Yes.
same position, and Miss Davis.
in this state.
All right. And I guess Mr. Beverly too, all of you are the same.
Yes, sir,
Time you working in the mailroom with them.
in the mailroom.
And we heard about kind of the procedure of mailroom. That's all pretty accurate, what they all testified to.
Yes,
Somebody goes, gets the mail from Alden Road, comes back and helps sort it.
we sorted it out. Yes.
What happened on that day?
So on that day, the morning I came in, I come in at 6 o'clock.
I'm the only one that's there, so I go ahead and get the mail ready to go to the post office.
I'm gonna break you up here. What do you mean get the mail ready? What do you have to do?
So you have to get in a van, go to each institution, pick up the mail that has been processed by the officers on the unit, bring it back to the mail room, put it in separate vans, and bring it to the post office so it can be distributed out to the community.
And you say different units. The federal prison complex is actually a bunch of different units that all kind of work together, right?
Yes.
Okay, there's a low security, a medium security, high security, different
And
types
a
of
camp.
units. And a camp, okay?
Mhm.
And that's why we talk about have 4 different units, like Mr. Beverly says, divided into 4, the mailroom, because there's 4 different units, is that right?
Yeah, 4 is the inmates, but you also have what you call the administrative building, and that's where you have to pick up mail there as well, staff mail,
So you gotta pick up mail from all these
all
places.
these places.
And that day you were there first, so you're the one that went around and picked up all the mail.
Yes,
So you get back to the mail room and have all the mail, and I guess at that point your coworkers started coming in.
coming in.
What happened next?
Me and Mr. Beverly, we left, took the mail, we have to load it up, we went to Walden Road, received the incoming mail, gave them the out processing mail, came back to the mail room, and then you distributed, yeah.
And Miss Ivy mentioned something that you and Mr. Beverly were in an argument earlier. Do you remember arguing with Mr. Beverly?
No,
Did you and some of the coworkers sometimes have arguments or disagreements?
we have disagreements all the time,
And that's just any kind of workplace that happens, correct?
yes,
All
in
right.
that setting,
But obviously nothing ever was too heated between you and Mr. Beverly,
no.
because y'all actually went to the post office
We
together.
went to the post office together. Yes.
All right. And again, you heard me ask him a moment ago, you and Mr. Beverly aren't necessarily friends, are you?
No, we are coworkers.
You work together all the
Work
time, but
together.
you don't go out to dinner afterwards or hang out at the park on the weekends or anything, do you?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. So y'all get back from the post office, you and Mr. Beverly. Where was Miss Ivy?
Miss Ivy was in the low area, so it's sectioned, just like how they said. She was in the low area at her desk. Her desk is kind of to the right side wall that separates the low and the medium. And my desk is on the other side, the wall that separates the low and the USP.
So you and Miss Ivy were both working the low.
We was working in the low area,
Mr. Beverly was working the medium.
the medium area.
And where's Miss Davis working?
She's in the medium
Medium,
area.
so they were in a section right next to you guys.
Right next.
Is it walled off or is it like just like cubicle walls?
It's more like a petition. You have little walls on the side, but it's more open with little separation.
Well, somewhere along the way, according to Miss Ivy, and I think you agree, you and Miss Ivy got into a little disagreement.
Yes,
Do you
so
remember what it was over?
basically, when I came in, she gave me some coupons because we both could coupon together. And I was over in the area, like where you set it is not where you sort the mail out. So you have what you call a wall that's on the backside. I was on the wall with the backside where you sort the mail out, and she was on the telephone. So I let her know I was here, and she told me she was on the phone. So I told her, okay, so I began to sort the mail out. And when she got off the phone, she was basically like, why are you throwing mail at me? And I told her, I'm not throwing mail at you. I wouldn't do that to you. And she was like, yes, you are. And I was like, you're very upset. So that's when she got out of her area, came in the area where I was on the backside. And she began to point her finger in my face.
Well, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
She was on the phone and we heard from Miss Davis that it sounded like she was crying or having a bad phone conversation.
She could have been, I don't know. When she told me that she was on the phone, I didn't want to disturb her. Yeah,
But it seemed like she was having a bad day.
she could have been having a bad day.
So anyway, all right, so now she came over where you were, and what happened when she got to the area?
When she came where I was, she was like, you are. And I was like, no, I'm not. And so she pointed her finger in my face. When she pointed her finger in my face, which she was standing this way. I was standing on this side. So her hand poked me in the eye. And I told her, say, your hand poked me in the eye. You might want to step back a little bit. So Miss Davis got up, and that's when Miss Davis came over. And she was basically like, okay, separate each other. So whenever she said that, that's when Miss Ivy was like, be what you want to do. And I told her out of my words, I say, this is a setup. You gotta be upset about something. Because we talk outside of work. kids, everything. So I was like, you're a little bit upset. And my back was to where the microwave is, so it's a wall with the microwave. So Ms. Davis asked me to scooch back and her to scoot back a little bit, and that was it.
Okay. And then at some point, Miss Ivy and Miss Davis left, we heard.
They left.
You just went back to sorting mail?
I just went back sorting out.
Did you think anything was unusual at that point?
I didn't think anything was unusual. I just thought maybe she was upset about something and she just needed to cool off.
But at some point, they came to you to do an investigation. That's when you realized something was wrong. Is that correct?
So they basically, we have what you call captains that's over every institution. So if something is happening, they will actually send them out first to talk to you. So they asked me what happened and I told them, and they say, this is not what was told to us. So from there, they left and went about their day, and that was it.
Did they ever get you to write a statement or any kind of thing?
They made me write a statement, and that was it.
Oh, were you ever disciplined for this?
No, I wasn't.
Did you ever have to take time off work for this?
I had to take time off of work to come to court.
But I'm talking about, did they tell you had to take time off because of this incident?
Oh, no,
Okay.
no.
The only time you had to take off because this is like being here today and
Yes.
other court appearances?
Yes,
All right. You heard Miss Davis and Mr. Beverly testify because you were sitting there, and they both stated that you didn't strike Miss Ivy. Did you ever at any point strike Miss Ivy?
I did not strike Miss Ivy.
Did you ever touch her?
I did not touch Miss Ivy.
She touched you at one point.
She touched me. It may have been a point to where I removed her hand on my eye because I had tears coming out of my eye, but not strike Miss Ivy.
And you didn't go file charges on her for touching, hitting you in the eye, did you?
No, I did not, because I know that most people talk with their hands and she was pretty close.
Okay. And you knew it wasn't like she was trying to intentionally hit you.
Yes.
Okay. Pass the minute, sure.
Mr. Shear,
Is it called on my thing here?
Okay, Ms. Guillory.
Yes, sir.
So you're a human resource specialist?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so is that an advancement from where you were?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, and so that gets you out of the units then?
Well, I was out of the unit for 3 months. Or actually, we rotate quarterly. So if you break it down, basically 6 months out the year, 6 months outside and 6 months inside the institution.
Okay, so when you got, as I say, promoted to this human resource specialist.
Yes, sir.
From the mailroom to that?
No, sir, I was actually in the inside of the USP
Okay.
is where I worked at. Yes, sir.
Okay, and you said that there was no administrative action that had been taken against you.
No, sir. Basically, they just called us in to talk to us one by one, but it wasn't, what you mean by administrative? What do you mean?
I mean, did you get like any kind of letter in your file or?
I wouldn't know, until they call me in and tell me that I actually have a letter
Okay,
in my file.
okay, and so they have not done that?
They have never told me I had those words, a letter in my file.
Okay, well, did they, is their investigation still open or?
They could have an investigation still open. If the investigation is open, it will be probably connected to what's here. I'm not sure.
Okay, but you've never received a letter saying that there was any conclusion to this?
Myself, I have not received a letter personally
Okay,
from someone saying that they have an open investigation. They called us in and spoke with us. I guess after Ms. Ivy made her report, but no one ever gave me a letter stating, Ms. Guillory, you have actual open investigation. There could be one tied
okay,
to it.
and then let me ask you this, instead of a letter, has anybody told you that, or have you received a phone call to that nature?
I received a phone call 3 days ago telling me that I had OIA investigation,
Mhm.
and that was for both of us.
Okay, and the OIA, for the sake of the jury, if you could explain who that is.
I guess it's a internal, investigator that they have. I never dealt with it, so I don't know to the specifics.
Okay,
Um,
okay. So far as you know, you've not been told one way or the other on anything, or are you saying it's still just hanging out there?
okay, so most of the times, if you have a case, they won't tell you, they won't call me down and say, hey, Ms. Guillory, you have a case, until, I guess, they figure out it's a court case. I'm not sure how it proceeds, you would have to ask them, because that is not my area.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I know that working in a unit like this, y'all have pretty strict rules.
We have rules,
And those are for your protection and your safety, and then also for the safety of the inmates too.
yes, absolutely.
And I know that a lot of times the inmates will try to get you to cross a line to try and get you to do something that they know you shouldn't.
They will try to,
They play games.
that's the institution, it's a federal prison.
Okay. So do inmates ever make accusations against corrections officers or employees of the institution?
Absolutely.
Does that happen a lot?
It could, I wouldn't know. That's not my area.
Okay, have you ever had anybody make an accusation against you?
Only Miss Ivy.
Okay, and so no inmate has ever said you did something or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay, what would be the procedure if one of them did? Do you know?
I'm guessing they'll call you in and let you know that the inmate has made a claim
Mhm.
and ask you for your statement. I can't tell you verbatim because I've never been put in that situation, and that's not my area of expertise.
Okay, let me ask you then, so you have worked for the Federal Bureau of Prisons for 16
Maybe
years?
16 years. now.
Okay, and in those 16 years, how many years did you work with direct contact with the inmates?
I'm gonna say 8 years. I did 8 years in Beaumont, and I did a year in Hazelton, West Virginia, working contact with inmates, in 3 to 4 years correctional system officer in Hazelton, West Virginia as well.
Okay, okay, and so in all that time, you never had an inmate make any type of accusation?
No, sir.
How critical is trusting other corrections officers?
It's very critical.
Okay, do you have to search inmates?
When you're at that post, different posts, you are required to search inmates.
Okay,
It
so
depends on where you're at.
if somebody else says, I've already searched that person. do you-
Okay, in what way that person?
I mean, say they bring somebody to you and they say, it's okay, I've already searched them. Would you search them again?
You can search them again. Yes, you
Okay.
can.
But would you trust your other employee?
It depends on the situation, what you are facing at that time. We are put in different situations at different times. I can't just tell you just right off the bat what would happen. It depends on the situation at that time. If you're having a fight, if we're trying to separate inmates, making sure they don't have contraband, you want to double search them, because why would I give them to someone else with not properly searching them? So it depends on the situation.
I understand.
Yes,
I
sir.
understand. As far as following the rules and such as that, how important is that?
What you mean by rules? You
I mean, I know
mean
y'all
for
have
as inmates?
volumes of guidelines and policies and such as that.
We have different rules and regulations. We have different policies and procedures that are set for different things. So it depends on what part are you in referencing to.
Okay, well, and so you're saying that there's some areas that you need to follow the rules and some
No,
that's,
sir, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it depends on the situation. with hand, where are you working at? It's different things that you do. You have different, if you're working on the compound, you have different duties on that compound. If you're working in a housing unit, you have different duties in a housing unit. You have post orders that you have to read and that you have to follow. That also combines to the Bureau rules and regulations. So different areas, you have to do different things. Everything is not the same.
Okay, but as far as taking these post orders, these bureau regulations and stuff like that, how important is it to follow them?
It's very important
Okay.
that you follow the rules and regulations.
Okay. No
Yes,
further.
sir.
Okay. Mr. West?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Guillory, you may step down. Mr. West?
Your
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, both the state and the defense have rested. State, you have any rebuttal testimony?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, state does not have any rebuttal testimony, so the court has to prepare a charge, but before the court prepare a charge and present the charge to you, the court will have what is called a charge conference. That is, we'll look at the charge. The charge is the law that will be given to you to follow. And so at this time, you're gonna be in recess. I don't know how long it's gonna take. It may take 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, a little longer. But at this time, you can follow the bailiff into the hall. If you need any water or any coffee, just let the bailiff know. Everyone, please stand. Going to be in recess.